Yeah, welcome everybody also watching the recording to my masterclass on source creation. And for the next 10 to 15 minutes, I will really just be drawing here and be kind of like explaining you a little bit around what I see as the value of visual practice and how also the theme of source, like this inspired source that's kind of like entering your body often can become, or like how visuals can become a tool for expression mm, in your life. Because, you might be here facing a pretty complex world. We all live in a world that's like rapidly changing, super interconnected, AI, pandemics, new political shifts. Like it's just really complex. And I found that dealing with this complexity, you really need creativity. You need an active way of like taking in this situation, seeing the interconnected parts, but really then expressing and of course like interacting kind of with this system. Like I think you all have like jobs and aspirations to have impact, to yeah, to make the world a better place or to at least like improve the systems that we're living in. Because yeah, I think it's just like quite clear that they're really complex and that we need solutions for that. Mm, and I discovered that drawing really is this like magical tool. Um, for me at least, it was to really well first understand what is happening, but understand as you're practicing. Like often I start these kinds of visualization, like the one here, and I'm like, I don't even know, like, sometimes you have this like vague feeling, like something, you're feeling something around a situation or a project or, just like the state of the world. But like drawing these out, the ideas out really helps you to understand these complex phenomenon. And it also helps you to do something that's like, plan, but don't just plan in a way of like, doing Excel spreadsheets, which are sometimes good, Excel spreadsheets are good if you set up like a financial plan or something, but plan emergently or plan um in facilitation we call this emergent strategies, like because we kind of like realize more and more that in order to deal with these kind of complex problems, we can't be linear anymore. Like these are like not linear problems. Like maybe earlier, like building a car was kind of like a linear kind of problem that you could understand and it could work with like engineers and like linear thinking tools. But now we really need like yeah, like holistic thinking, I think more and more. Like we really need to deal with the world in a more like organic kind of way that includes all the channels that we have, that includes emotions and intuition and just yeah, complexity. Like complexity literally means that things are interconnected. All these parts are working together, and we cannot just deal with them like just saying, okay, I'm gonna fix this problem. Like now I'm just gonna fix climate change, and that's not connected to the global crises and anything. I would just like reduce it to CO2 the numbers, and then I'm going to reduce the numbers of CO2, and that's going to solve the problem. And as we see the way we're dealing with climate crises, this approach is not really effective. So yeah, all these things visualization can do for you in a complex world. But lastly, something I really want to mention, and it's really also the audience I speak to is what visualization really helped me to do is to enhance my self-expression, because once you start drawing out your ideas, you just become highly creative, like and in a way you can't stop anymore because you're just like in the flow, you know. That's I think one of the greatest feelings that humans can have is to be in the flow where you don't really think about stuff anymore, but ideas are just like flowing out of you and you get visible with them, which is, I think, also something that many of us struggle. Like maybe it's easy to like have your little great ideas around the world inside of your head, but then once you created an image, it's already visible, like you're already creating in the physical world. And the next step of maybe showing your drawings, your creations to other people um, is, yeah, is much easier because you actually have something to show, and there's actually something more interesting than just a report or something that people would like to look at. So that's cool if you're a facilitator and you actually are teaching or coaching people. You can use visualization to really yeah, speak to people on a more emotional level. But especially also if you're like an entrepreneur, and that's most of the courses I do are for entrepreneurs these days, like people, also facilitators who are actually creating their own little world, let's say, their own little business. And that just needs a lot of strategizing, a lot of, you know, like getting the abstract ideas clear. And that's the reason actually I called this workshop drawing, because drawing is what we're doing here from source. Because it's a little word play, right? Like because drawing literally means like to, of course, to draw, but it also means to pull your pen on the paper and to pull from inspiration. Like really, you know, if you imagine there's something like source, whatever that feels like for you, but however you connect to it through meditation, through nature, through cooking. Um, if you want to be creative in this world, if you want to deal with this situation, I think having a tool of expression is just gold. And visuals work best for me because they're just like they connect me to my body, to my essence, and things just happen. Like I didn't really plan this presentation right now. It's just flowing out of me, and I can now look at this and be like, interesting. Let me see what I drew here. Like this whole thing about linear and holistic thinking. Like I had these ideas in my head apparently, but now they just become more and more clear. And I'm like, oh wow, that's such a cool story. I could create content or like even write a whole book about that subject. So yeah, just really wanting to yeah, wanting you to be part of my creative process and really make it like visible. I could have created a presentation, but it's so cool to see like wow, in like 5 minutes, you know, these kind of things can be created. And you don't even need a lot. Like now that we're looking at this image, like I guess well maybe I can ask you and you can either ask the chat or just yeah, maybe let's use the chat. Maybe what do you see? What elements do you see as you're like looking at this little image I just created? Just to see what is actually visualization, like what is it composed of? And you can just use the chat, or like if you're on a phone or something, you can of course also speak. And then afterwards, I will give you the answers and I will show you what elements I have deconstructed from visualization. Yeah, so what you all wrote and what I also see here is basically three basic elements. And that's the technique we're going to be practicing today. Flip the page. Actually, maybe I have it here. So I really like acronyms, and that's why I created an acronym around the three basic elements that you need for every visualization. And the acronym is called WIZ. WIZ, trying to be as close to visualization viz as I could be. Um, Actually, that was before AI. Maybe now with AI, I could create a better acronym. So with are the three elements is also the process of going through every visualization that I actually do as well. Like I'm a graphic recorder. I do this for living and I always do the same thing. You always start with the first part, which is writing. So whenever you create something, like that's you creating something, this is your page, um, you really just like start by writing the most essential words. Like you maybe write the headline here, and then you can like, if you like listening to a talk or something, really just writing the basic keywords onto the paper in a sort of structure. Of course, it's good to have a structure, but in the beginning, it's also just good to have a blank page and to put them somewhere. Writing is the first basic building block, and we really see that in the visualization here, that it's pretty much 80% text. It's That's how we communicate information these days through text and yet it's of course it's such a practice to be writing in a way that is kind of like beautiful, and there's a whole like there's a whole world around lettering can be such a beautiful practice, and you can learn different ways of writing. And even like as I'm writing and talking, I notice how I get much calmer, because you really gotta concentrate. That's something that you know people in Japan and the East did a lot, like with calligraphy, um, which is really a form of meditation. So really, like this is a calligraphy pen, so it works quite well. But seeing your writing as art, that's the first step. And it's a cool low-hanging fruit because you don't really need to learn anything new. You already know how to write on paper, but now you can just like put your artist approach to it and try to be a bit more slow, a bit more mindful. And then, of course, there's all kinds of lettering techniques. I'm teaching a course through and visualization where we're going to be going more in depth of like different lettering styles. You basically see like the three basic letterings I use is like small letters, big letters, and then there's like more like calligraphy lettering. But yeah, learning the basics, learning how to write in a clear um, and beautiful way and capturing the essence of what is being said is, yeah, it's so basic. And you can, yeah, you can really, maybe all you need to do when whatever you do, when you create a flip chart, when you run a workshop, when you just like listen to a talk and you want to record them, just writing down the keywords and really putting your heart into these words is the first step and the first element. And then once you have that, of course, every visualization, so it's not just the text, needs some images and icons, sometimes I call them. And that's basically how all graphic recorders work. They all just like, whenever they have their words, they then just like start pairing up little objects and symbols next to these words. That's the most basic way, but it also just works. It's just a proven technique because it gives you more time to first like capture the information and then see, okay, does what images actually come up as as I'm looking at these words. So for example, I can ask you now, like if I look at writing, this is the first word here in this visualization, what image comes up? What's the first image you have when you think of writing? Maybe you can speak or write in the chat. I'm going to then draw that symbol, a pen. Yeah, I already have it here. Pretty simple. So a pen. And then, of course, you kind of need like, I always like a simple way of drawing a pen is just like drawing a little triangle and drawing a little rectangle. And that's a pen already. Of course, you can be more fancy. But just like basically, I could now look at my pen and see how does that look like. And I see, okay, it's very long. It's a very long kind of like cylinder, and then at the top it's sharp, but it's also very long, so it looks a bit like that. And that's my thing. And I can even see, there's a little bit of light here. I could even like crop at that. So just like finding images, simple images is key. What image comes up when you think of image? Do you have any idea? Any image that comes up when you think of image? A picture frame, beautiful. Yeah, that's what most people say. And we have like a whole collective unconscious. So picture frame, I guess, could look like that. Or maybe you could make it a bit more fancy. And you see already we have this little combination of like images. And I mean, maybe something could be in here, like a little person. It's always good actually to draw people because that's what we identify first. Yeah. Um, I think my screen share just stopped. I will quickly fix that. And in the meantime, you could think of like what images comes up when I talk about the viz technique. Just to find one last image. Like whiz, what does it sound like? Or technique, what does that sound like? Yeah, just fixing the camera here. Um, a painting and a wand. Beautiful. So beautiful symbols to draw. So a painting, I mean, could just like look like that, but of course, if we want to make it more like look like a painting, maybe having a little brush next to it, something I like to draw, even like a little palette, then it's quite clear. Like you always like you got to give the mind like good simple drawings. And a wand I also really like because yeah, it's like magic, and that's what you're going to be practicing in a bit. So I guess a wand has like some stars around. Because in a way, this is magic. You really start by like by visualizing, you draw things into reality. And yeah, you're also writing a wizard. So let's see, a wizard always wears this little hat, which is basically, it's always little shapes, you know, you have a little round hat, and then you have a little triangle. It's really easy to just like start with these little shapes. And then could be here, could have a little beard, and yeah, that's our little wizard. And yeah, I'm usually not into faces, but I'm learning now to draw more faces because it just makes figures more happy. So yeah, giving that a little, a little face. So yeah, so we already see how our mm, visualization becomes more alive using these visuals. And in a second, you're going to be practicing this whole technique by yourself. Basically looking like this thing here. But of course, we need one last essential thing. Like what is missing here? What could the S be like? And what is missing? Like what does this thing have that doesn't have? You can again use chat or speak. Well, I'm gonna tell you. Yes. Amazing. Signs and signals. Okay. Cues, what do you mean by that? And Nina, you're actually right. But the S stands for structure because that's something we're adding in the end. But I also it could also be a C for color because that's the main difference here, right? Like this one is colored and this one isn't. So the use of color makes, you know, a bit dull kind of page like that into a more colorful painting. And you really just use a single color. That's usually what people do in graphic recording, or maybe add another one. Maybe like gray is always a good one because gray you can combine with every other color. So having a bit of gray around is also nice for shadows. Makes it even more three-dimensional and I'm not sharing. Oh my God. Thanks for, yeah, I had to fix my thing and then I stopped. Yeah, here we are. Again. So just like I just colored, yeah. It would have been easier if you saw the because before I was like, okay, what's the difference from here to here? And obviously this one has color and this one doesn't. But this one also has more structure. Like if this would just be black things, your mind would be having a really hard time to concentrate. But by adding like the highlights here, and also like by adding what some of you said, like little containers, like maybe you can actually group things together, you know, making them into little bubbles. That's something we call like chunking. We only create like a few basic chunks and make this into yeah, something that's easier to grasp. And that's the last step really of this technique that I developed is to see, okay, what is essential here? Like here, the title is of course very essential. So maybe underlining that. And then since it's called Wiz, we could kind of like highlight these first letters. And maybe that's already it. Because of course, like if you now paint the whole thing, it loses kind of its like the signaling colors have a reason, and and the reason is to keep it essential. So that's why I always like to use two colors. If you have two colors, feel free to use them, but I also just said bring one color. Because then it can be nice to have another color. Maybe like light blue is something I really like to give you little objects, just like little shades, and maybe also underline them. But you see, there's a different information hierarchy. Like this is less visible, and it's easier for your mind to orient first on the yellow, and then it can see the blue and be like, ah, okay, one, two, three. These are the three steps. So yeah, that's the whiz technique. And now I already talked for quite some time, so let's practice together. I'm done talking, and I would invite you to take a new kind of page, a blank page. And I'd like you to take a moment and to think of something that you would like to be creating in your life, something that you would like to invite, like think of like if everything you now draw is becoming into existence, what what is something you could give to, Santa Claus or Magic Fairy and say like, hey, this is my list, this is my wish list, that's what I would like to have created. Um, so just yeah, give yourself a moment and really also like try to connect to the source because that's what we're like that's why I call this workshop connecting to source. Like what is something that you would like to create? And if you have that something, and it can also be a vague word, you can start with the first the first little step, which is writing. And what we're going to be doing is you write the keyword of your vision into the middle. So if you don't know how to write yet, you can also just write vision. But what I invite you to do is to really go like down half the speed of how you'd normally write, and maybe also like start writing in capital letters because that's something you're not used to if you go to the other way of writing. So really, let's do a mindfulness exercise, and I'd like you to find maybe like 5 or 6 keywords of the thing that you want to create. So it can just be business or like for me right now, business is the biggest thing. So I'm gonna write vision of my business here in the middle. And you can already start playing around like with little different letters. Like I'm just giving you a structure here, but it's really like make this your own, whatever is calling you right now. Um, yeah, and then you can just like add little concepts that are or like keywords that are essential for this vision that you're having, for this thing that you want to be inviting. So for me, like marketing is a piece, and r- you write that here, and then you really write these words all around your keyword in the middle. And we're gonna take really like, and again, 5 more minutes to just take our time. I'm gonna again play a sound, play some music, and you use the calligraphy, the kind of like meditation moment for that. And if you have questions, of course, put them in the chat. We take 1 more minute, just find the last words. Notice the feeling when you're like, oh damn, this doesn't look so good as I wanted. Just welcome that feeling too. also see how it makes you feel writing these words. Like, is there excitement of like, oh wow, yeah, that's what I want to create, that's what I want to invite, or is it like, oh gosh, it feels like pressure? Because that's really the beauty for me of visualization, that you can really access your creative process. Um, Yeah, so you can stay in your flow. I would just like give the next steps. So we've done the first step of writing now, and now it kind of gets easy because you don't have to think so much anymore. But you can like start finding images for all the things that you've written down and really finding like one simple image. And a little trick is like if you can't think of an image, just Google. That's something I like to do is just like Google you know, icon for marketing. And even like when you write that, you would probably already have like, an idea of what could come up in Google search if you would look for this word. So I guess in marketing, I don't know, maybe a little shopping trolley would appear or something. Um, But yeah, try to first use the images that are really in your mind, and if you have access to a device, you could also, profit is a good one. If you would look for profit, you would for sure get just some coins, and they're quite easy to draw, just like little half circles. So this is, of course, a really quick 90 minutes workshop. We could talk ages about how to draw symbols quick and easy and what techniques to apply. But for now, I really want to show you the bigger picture. So I invite you to just like find simple images and icons that you could put next to your things. Like here, client is also easy, like maybe drawing just a person. That's the way how I draw people. But if you draw stick figures, that's also cool. Just there's no right or wrong here. It can also be, yeah, it's about finding your style. But we are going to take another little song, and you can find images for your words. And again, staying mindful, noticing when you judge yourself. We always do that. I'm already like, this doesn't look as nice as usually. And this is just part of the creative process to be with your um, critical mind. Yeah. And just like learn to accept it and to welcome it. And really just try to find one symbol, of course. Like, don't try to fill the whole page. Leave some space. White space is so important so your mind can kind of like orient. And again, taking another minute to find the last images. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is just a first draft. And slowly coming to an end. However, you can stay in your creative flow because you know what comes next. Like all we need to now do is the coloring. And the coloring can always happen afterwards, actually. Often I have these all these creations, and then just like at another time I'm actually taking my pens out. So if you have one color, you can just like start maybe by highlighting your most important words, especially of course your keyword. But already, just highlighting these words will give so much orientation to your page. And it's such a simple trick. Um, and really see how you can use color for structure. And then if you have two colors, something I also like to do is like to give my images another color because they're technically another symbol. So I always, just give it a little stroke of color here on the side. Um, so that's a very simple trick for your mind to differentiate these two, these two symbols, uh, and like the difference from words and images. That takes time. Maybe it wouldn't like it doesn't look so nice in the beginning, but just like starting to work with color is already a big game changer. And of course, like, if you have one color only, just also feel free to color all the things, but try to be a bit decent in your coloring. Like really try to use color as a form of structure. And then something also can be doing, what I like to do a lot is like drawing little bubbles around the things I created to actually like group them together. Like this is a little bubble, and just like putting things in a bubble is easier for your mind to orient. So just play around with that. That's the first little workshop. There's nothing to do right here. I'm gonna play one last song. This one is gonna be a bit shorter, and then we have time for exchange. And again, slowly coming to an end with this song. Yeah, and feel free to do the last finishing touches. I'm gonna stop the recording in a second and then we can just like chat and you can, if you want, show your visuals and we can talk about it. But just for the sake of ending this workshop and also for inviting everybody along into a bigger journey, I want to share one last thing, which is. Mm, that was a first very brief overview about the art of visualization, which of course takes practice and takes attention. And yeah, and I'm excited to be running my first little visualization course. Like lately, I've been really more into business coaching, and then more and more people have asked for, hey, can you just teach visualization, please? So I'm doing that, and this masterclass is kind of part of that. But then I'll be running a workshop, and I maybe you've seen it already, but I just want to share it again. This is the landing page. It's just a very short journey, basically for freelance facilitators or like people who work with the things that I've mentioned, who want to get from this like more confused state into like this state of like, having clarity, having creativity, and having confidence with visuals. With me, that's me. And what we're going to be doing in this journey is we're kind of expanding the Wiz technique into the Be Wise technique. That's something I just like recently expanded because there's more. Like you got to start with the bigger picture of thinking of like what does your visualization look like and get the essence in there, and then you do the steps that we just did, and you also have like ending touches. So I just always like to create little um, acronyms and journeys to make it more accessible, like with the Wiz. So that's the kind of like outline of the course over the 5 sessions. So this will be session one and two, no, session one, and then we will be going to 5 sessions through these steps. These are the dates. I actually changed one date. I think Lisa, you were already looking at the dates, so maybe make sure that this still fits. Sessions will be recorded, and yeah, it's super affordable. Like I have a sliding scale price between 250 and 500, depending on your income. So if you click this link, you will get to a little form where you can then also choose your tier and get all the information in. Yeah, so this and more will be coming in my newsletter together with the recording. And I have one little last promotion because I always kind of like want to reward the people who watch the recording, who are part of the masterclass. And in my times of business, I also learned it's good to have some promotions. So I'm doing a little promotion, and that's a cool one actually. I'm handing out 3 visual coachings of 90 minutes, like for the first 3 people that are applying with the code Masterclass coaching. So just put that in the chat. So there's a section in the form. If you put in masterclass coaching, this will be added to your journey. You will have a session with me, and that's a pretty cool like thing I'm doing, visual coaching, where we're basically talking about your creative endeavor, your business, or whatever it is. And I am visualizing that for you as you speak, and we're kind of looking at it together. So it's kind of like a coaching conversation, but also has more. It has it has many beautiful things. Yeah, so I would love to have you in there. Of course, reach out if you have any questions. And for now, I will just end the recording. Thanks for watching, and we can then like stay here and talk a little bit more.